Hi everyone, I'm your host Dr. Haider Shah. On behalf of Kalwas, I welcome you all to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have very interesting topic and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker who is going to talk about the social perspective of social media influence. But before we start formally, I would like to thank the Kalwas for arranging such enlightenment sessions and for their support and providing us such platform. Our aim is to provide you the opportunity to talk to the experts, to the professionals, in order to learn from their experiences, how to overcome the different challenges, and how can you be a more contributing member to the society. So today our guest is very special and multi-talented person. He is the teacher, trainer, and the head of the R&D, co-founder of the one organization and a PhD as well. So let me just introduce him formally. Today we have very interesting that guest speaker. Has worked on the projects of top national and multinational companies in Pakistan. As a trainer, he has conducted more than 400 sessions for the non-profit, telecom sector, banking sector organization. He is a certified master trainer by Higher Education Commission, and he has also provided training to the faculty and students of more than 25 universities across Pakistan. He has a PhD in marketing and published in national and international journals. He co-founded Neuron Solutions, a firm that provides market research, IT, and digital media services to the national and international clients. So please help me in welcoming the powerful and dynamic personality, Dr. Mohsin Zaid. Welcome to the Kalwas platform, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much,
Dr.
Dr. Haider.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much for joining the session. So before we start, let me just go through the format of today's session. So today, Dr. Mohsin will give the overview of the topic, and then it will be question answer session, which we receive through emails, social media, and through our official email. And we will also be taking online questions, so you can ask the question from guest speaker directly by monitoring your questions in the comment section, and you can we will ask the guest speaker regarding that. So let's get started. Mr. Mohsin, Dr. Mohsin, can you just brief of what is the role of the social media and taking it in that perspective?
Thank you very much, Dr. Haider. I'm really thankful that you gave me this opportunity. Social media is something which is really interesting in several ways. For example, let me tell you a story. When transatlantic cable were being developed between as a communication tool between USA and Europe, earlier than that, the communication, the gap between Europe and USA was too much. For example, if you take a ship from USA and you come to the it takes around 2 weeks, probably 3 weeks. It depends on the journey. And a message which is coming from the USA, it'll take 3 weeks. It means so financial guys in the stock exchange, which used to work in Europe and USA, they used to play with that, with that information. So if USA market, for example, if USA market is going up and the Europe marketing is not going up, so when you have this information that USA market is going up, you have that information, and from that information you can assess that European market is going to up or going down, right? So that information was basically the value, and that value is translated into financial gains. So the gap between that information between US and Europe, that was like, I can tell you the actual worth of that. So transatlantic cable, the idea was that if we can reduce that communication gap between USA and Europe, then you will essentially be reducing the cost of the communication. So the company which laid down that cable, that was charging $10 per message, $10 per SMS. So $10 was something which, in those times, farmers will live on that $10 probably for 3 to 4 months. So you can estimate the value of that information or value of that single SMS, because A financial management guy from USA will get the information from the European market, and he will use that information to gain the financial gains. So when that transatlantic cable project was completed, there is a message on the, you can find it on the Google. The president of the USA, he claimed that this connectivity, this connection between the communities, between societies, between the continents, will ensure, he was probably 100% guaranteeing it, that it will start a revolution in the social community from peace and war perspective. He said that, if we have the communication, if we have the social interaction between several continents, there is no possibility of war. So, and you know that after that transatlantic cable, we've been through World War One and we've been through World War Two. Second transformative communication project was the railroad, the U.S. States Railroad. When that project was completed, again, the U.S. president, he hailed that achievement as a guarantee that there will be no war again. But still, we gone through World War One and World War Two. So my point is, when you start a project, you assume something, and it does not necessarily mean that it will fulfill. So there is a speech by Mark Zuckerberg on the Facebook in the United Nations that the Facebook is a guarantee that there will be no conflict because societies and communities are being, interacting with each other. But after the Facebook, after the advent of the Facebook, there are still conflicts in the world. In the Middle East, that we don't want to make it a political debate on it. So assumption was, if societies, if communities interact with each other, there will be peace, there'll be no war. But that did not happen. It means the underlying assumption of the connecting people, connecting societies, connecting communities, it does not necessarily mean there will be peace. So what does that mean? It means you don't know the effect of social media considering the assumptions. This is something which has never happened to humanity. This digital revolution is first time in the last hundreds of millions of years, right? So we don't know that how the social media is affecting the society, is affecting it. I was recently studying a report. uh, I will go one by one. What are the issues
Sure.
which are being highlighted by the social media? One, issue number one is there. It was assumed that social media will increase the peace efforts in the world. It did not happen. So you need to be clear on that. That this connectivity does not necessarily mean that there will be peace. Number two is, no, this is the first time in probably hundreds of thousands of years that human neurology, this the chemistry of the brain is being changed. uh, Evidence is not available that how it is changing, but this is available. Studies are showing that the neuronal structure of the brain is being changed. So this is remarkable. We don't know how how it will affect in probably next 500,000 years. It'll be really interesting as a researcher. Third factor is, social media means it was assumed that people will be more social, but the evidence suggests that the people who use more social media are actually being less social. So social media is making us unsocial. They're making us less social. So that's another interesting finding that because people assume that if you are on the social media, you are being social. No, it's not right. It's wrong. If you are on the social media, you're not being social. You're just being you're just using a tool which is called social media. It does not necessarily mean it making you more social. So another interesting thing, which studies have evidence, is that when you rely on social media, people tend to use their decision making less frequently. For example, this social media and decision making skills, it's really interesting because decision making is a skill which you use uh, in all aspects of your life. So if you are not relying on your own decision making skills, you're basically impacting your whole life, right? So for example, you see a beautiful shoes, you like them on the Facebook, and there are, let's say, 100,000 likes on that shoe. There is another shoe which is on the social media, and there are, let's say, there are 10 likes. Which shoe you are more likely to buy? The one with 100 likes, right? So what you're doing is, when you are relying on your own decision making skills, you're basically impacting your whole life, right? So if you are not relying on your own decision making skills, you're basically impacting your whole life. So what you're doing is, you are basically closing down your own decision making skills, and you are relying on the number of likes which are on that shoe. So what you did, you just follow the trend, you know, the herd mentality. And the scary thing is, it's not about that people liked 100 people, 100,000 people like that shoe. That's not important. Important is you don't know that how those 100,000 likes were purchased. You don't know it was a bot. You don't know it was actual humans. There's no evidence for that, right? So one, the scary thing is, one, you are making your decision making skill. You are reducing the use of your decision making skill. One, and secondly, based on the parameters which are not really clear, which do not have any, rational evidence that 100,000 people are are liking that shoe. Next, fourth point is that people who use more social media, there's a study on that. Use of social media is directly related with reduced well-being. There is one, life satisfaction. You as a researcher, there are variables of, or one is life satisfaction, but the
Very true.
well-being is something which is, on the macro level. Life satisfaction is probably on the micro level, but
Yeah.
uh, but you know well-being is something which has life satisfaction as a subset of that well-being. So it means you whenever you use social media, you are more likely to reduce your well-being. There was a beautiful question, which you mentioned, that which we received about the mood. When you see a person, he is probably your colleague or your friend. He's going to Murray. In the Murray, he's taking pictures, and you are probably in Rawalpindi or Lahore, and you are suffering from heat, and you're saying, that guy is in the Murray, is enjoying that. What do you think? You will enjoy that, or you will be, yeah, more likely, you are more prone to jealousy and all that kinds of behaviors. So it means the more you use social media, you are reducing your well-being. Fifth factor is uh, that technically, when you are using the social media, you are basically making a comparison. You're making a comparison of your current state with something which is available on the social media. This unequal comparison. I would say unequal comparison. This unequal comparison between the best of something and the worst of something. It will make you more depressed, right? So
Right.
you are in your room, and there are, for example, there's no light. You're in a load shedding, and you are sweating, and you are seeing on the mobile that your friend is enjoying in the Murray. How would you feel? Again, you'll feel depressed. Why is that? Reason is, your friend is putting a picture which is best of his version, which is the best version of his enjoyment, right? But you are living probably your worst version of your life, right? So you are comparing your worst with the best of something, and of course you'll be depressed. You don't know. So the point is, you need to compare your worst with the worst of something, and you need to compare your best with the best of something. That makes sense. Otherwise, it won't make sense. Number six is, on the social media, based on this comparison, it looks like there's a competition. There's a competition that who looks more happy on the social media. On the Facebook, you see people are enjoying the party. They're doing parties. They're going for the lunch. They're going for the dinner. So it looks like there is a competition that who looks more happy, not being happy. So
True.
a person may not be happy, but he's taking a wonderful picture, and that putting that picture on the Facebook, which looks happy, but he's not actually happy. It is making the users of the social media more depressed, because they themselves know. One is the comparison between the worst and the best version, right? But the second is, when you are putting a best version on your social media, but that's not the best version of you, right? So it is making you more depressed, because the reality that it's not my best version. I'm not actually really enjoying that. For example, if you've been to Karachi, you go to the beach, right? You take a picture of yourself. There's a vast ocean there. There's a sunset. There's a sandy beach. You're enjoying it.
Yes.
But in that picture, when that picture is available on the social media, on the Facebook, you don't see that how sweaty was that. You don't feel the mosquitoes there, right? You don't feel flies there, right? You don't feel the heat there. There is no air, and So actually, on the social media, what you have is you have a selected version of life, not the whole version of life. When you see a selected version of life and you compare it with your whole version of life, what are you going to get? Of course, you'll be depressed because you have your whole life with you and you are comparing that with shortcut selected version, the best version of someone else. So it'll make you less happy, of course. uh, seventh factor is basically, uh, it was assumed, uh, based on the information access, that if people have more information, they'll be less biased. That was basically, that was again an assumption that if you have more information, and it makes sense. It makes sense that if you have more information, if you have more exposure, if you meet with more new people, you visit more places, you are going to be less biased. That was the assumption. But interesting evidence is the studies have shown that if you are using more social media, you will be more biased. If you are using more digital media, you'll be more biased because that is basically which is called the artificial intelligence based ruling. Because that algorithm, which is Facebook or Google is using, that is basically determining that how and which information is going to be displayed to you. You have no control over that. So what you get is, for example, if you if you relate yourself with a certain political party, the algorithm of the Facebook, algorithm of the Google knows that you relate with that party, you like that content, based on your social media user behavior. That algorithm knows what you like. So that algorithm will give you that content, will give you that information. Sorry, that algorithm will give you that information and that content which you like. So because you like that content which is related with some political party, you are going to get that content which is more likely to make you happy. So you have one opinion of one single political party and you are consuming that content again and again, it will make you more biased because you have no exposure of the alternate party. So that was another assumption which turned out to be false, that the information access or the information exposure or the access to the tools of information will make the society or will make the humans more less biased. No, it's false. The usage of social media is making people more biased. So that's another very serious side effect of social media. Last factor is, uh, the social media, and specifically digital media, is based on the technical expertise of the people. For example, if you do not have search engine optimization, you go on the Google or you go on the Facebook and you search for, let's say, you have a headache and you're searching for the doctor. Which doctor is more likely to be recommended to you? you know that doctor is more likely to be recommended to you, which has more technical expertise of the social media, which has more knowledge of search engine optimization, which has more knowledge of social media optimization, which is more expert on the use of tagging and all that. So this is another very serious repercussion of the social media, that a doctor is being represented to you, is being recommended to you, is being suggested to you based on his technical expertise, not of the profession, but of the IT. This is
Yes.
scary, right?
Yes.
You need to be recommended. You should be recommended that this doctor is the best of his class in his specific expertise in his specific class, but it doesn't happen like that. So uh, I hope you get this point. So this is
Yes.
a summary. But these are the major issues which we as a society, as social media users, are experiencing. So I think we can take questions now.
Yeah. Very nicely said, Dr. Mohsin. And I was enjoying what you were saying. And that's the beauty when you talk to the expert, you get the insight which you have never thought of. The last example which you gave of this doctor is very much evident of that. If you have technological skills, technology savvy, then you will be visible to your clients. But that doesn't
Yeah,
have anything to do with your profession. Your professional skills are quite different than this technological skills. Yeah, that's very
yeah,
wonderful point, and I can see the comment section that it's a very interesting topic and very good insight by Dr. Mohsin. This is just the starting that we are getting the comment of what you have said in the beginning of this session. I'm very keen that to listen to you further on these issues as well. You have
sure.
highlighted very wonderful points on that. So we take the questions, and let's just start with the first question that Dr. Mohsin, we had received this question through our email address that the question is the role of social media is increasingly becoming a critical element of human society by changing our social norms, values, and culture. Can we control the changing culture as we are influenced by other cultures? It means that they are concerned about their own culture. So, how can we control the influence of other cultures which we have through the social media?
Um, I think it has multiple dimension to that. One is, what does it mean by we? Who is we?
Yes.
If we, as a human, as a social media user, uh, if we're talking about that, no, we cannot control the culture because culture is related with the information with exposure, right? For example, how many people wore t-shirts and jeans 20 years back? Probably, 3, 4%, not more than that. And that is only in the metro town, probably, which had information, which had access, which had exposure. But now, if you go into the rural areas as well, even in rural villages, you see youth, younger generation, they're wearing jeans and t-shirts. Where does that come from? That
Yeah.
comes from the information access. That comes from the exposure. Now, it means culture is a byproduct of the exposure, is byproduct of information. So you can control the culture if you can control the information and exposure. Now, apparently, technically, you cannot basically control the exposure. You cannot control the information access. So it means culture is definitely going to change us. It is definitely going to influence us. That's one part. Second part is culture has a utility factor to it. For example, you know, what is the difference between a chappal, an ordinary chappal, and Peshawari chappal? There's a tech, there's a cultural differences, right? But there's a
True.
utility element to it as well. Chappal is something which does not have that, strap on the back. Peshawari chappal is something which has a strap on the back. Why does there's a strap on the back? Because Peshawari chappal is used on the mountains. And when you climb the mountain, the ordinary chappal which does not have that back strap, it's not really it's not really useful on that terrain. So basically, Peshawari chappal has a cultural utility to it. So it
Yeah.
means culture and utility is related. Now, when you come on the social media, on the digital media, basically what you're doing is culture, anything which is of some utility, that will change your culture. So Facebook was of and is probably something of utility. It is going to change us. Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the social media tools are basically. So when you say, when someone asks that, can we control the culture? No, actually no. Unless government tries to intervene that and says, all right, fine, we will not, we will not put that kind of content on the social media because it will change our culture. In that sense, we can. Otherwise, no. Third element of culture is basically related with the fashion. You know, uh, if you have a certain sense of fashion, that certain sense of fashion will be translated into culture. For example, Sindhi culture, Baloch culture, Pakhtun culture, Punjabi culture, they have some certain fashion element to that. In
True.
my in my in my personal opinion, the fashion element of the culture will be saved because that has some of that is a again fashion is a utility, right? You express yourself. That is a utility of expressing yourself. So in my opinion, utility and information element of the culture, these are very powerful and it will change our culture. The third element of fashion, probably it will save us, but I'm not guaranteeing that it will not change our culture. Fourth element of that is basically the macro environment. The world is changing from micro to a macro society. In the villages, like say 50 years back, you had a culture of the village, right? You had a culture of the city, then you had a culture of the country. But now, after the information, after this internet, you have a global society. It means in a global society, your culture is a byproduct of the social interaction which you have. Now, as a global society, when you have international exposure, your culture will also be international. It's not possible that you can control your culture based on the information. So I'm 50-50 to that. I'm more inclined that culture will be changed. Uh, but I think there is no scary thing about that. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much for a wonderful elaboration. Very nicely said. Okay, Dr. Mohsin, we have another question, which is a very good one. They ask about the communication skills that the students they spend more time on social media and they spend less time socializing face to face or in person with other people, and these habits reduce their communication skills. So, what's your stance on that, please?
I think personally, the use of social media is probably positive related with the communication skills, right? Because of course you are interacting on the social media. Uh,
Yes.
but I do hope, I do assume that this use of social media is reducing the academic ability of the students. I think there's no doubt of that. The use of social media is probably related with the reduced academic scores and academic abilities. In that sense, I would suggest that of course, don't use social media. If you are if you are hurting yourself by using something, right? So it's simply don't use that.
Yeah.
It's that easy. But technically it's not that easy because you are addicted to that. You are addicted to likes, you are addicted to views on your posts. So uh, you need to have a disciplined and a strong willpower to one, not use social media at all, to reduce the social media somehow. So I think the number one tip which I have found to be really useful is that you need to answer one thing, and that is why you are using social media. If you are using social media to spend time, in other words, to waste time, then that's not a very good objective of social media. So you need to be very clear why you're using social media. So are you using social media for the interaction? Okay, makes sense. Are you using social media to gain information? All right, makes sense. Are you using social media to market your products? Yeah, makes sense. You are using social media to market your services? Yeah, makes sense. But you're using social media to waste time? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So you need to be really clear that why you're using social media. If your social media objective, if the use of social media objective is not clear, something is not right. You need to understand, you need to answer one thing, that why you're using social media. So I think students, they are smart enough to understand that what I'm saying, right?
Yes, that's very nicely said, Dr. Mohsin. And similarly, question we will definitely talk about the things which you have mentioned earlier, that the bad aspect of this social media and the addiction towards it. We are having a lot of question on that, uh,
Sure.
but uh, but yeah, but we will discuss further the academic performance as you mentioned in your talk. We have the same related question to that, that today's students are more relying on the information and data that is easily accessible on social media and the different websites on internet, and this is the reason why students learning skills and research capabilities are decreasing, and particularly their engagement with these sites reduce their focus, which result in decline in their academic performance. So Dr. Mohsen, since we rely on the different websites to get the answers easily, so don't you think our reading habits have declined, particularly the book reading habits? And don't you think we are more inclined towards getting the snapshot of everything, just like the slides of the things? And then that's why our academic performance of particular students have reduced. since they rely on a content which is very limited, as you mentioned earlier, and very selected as well. So your comment on that, please.
I think there are several angles to that. One is, if you have some information on the social media, for example, it does not mean you are gaining information. The
Mhm.
majority of the content on the social media is not information. That's entertainment.
Got it.
Entertainment may have some bits and pieces of information, but it does not mean it has information. The majority of the content which I have researched is basically not information. So when people assume that they go to social media, they go to Facebook for sake of information, that's not correct. Basically, they're going for the entertainment, and in that entertainment, maybe there are some pieces of information which may be useful for them, but more or less, normally they are not. So students, especially, they need to clarify again, what is the objective of social media. If their objective of using social media is information, they're wrong, because social media is filled with entertainment, it's not filled with information. That's one point. Second point is, uh, I have not found any study which relates that the use of social media is directly linked with reduced reading habit. I have no proper evidence for that, because I assume that even if you are on the social media, if you're on the Google, you still need to read something, right? Not every information is basically images and video. That you still need to read something. So I think the use of digital media or the use of social media, if that is linked with reduced reading ability, I think that may not be correct. But I do assume that the easy access of information for sake of academic work, I think it is also not correct, in my opinion, because there was a time, probably 10, 15 years back, when uh, the information on the digital media was not that much. Now, the challenge of reduced access to information has been converted into a challenge of too much information. So
Yes.
first you had a challenge that there is not enough information. Now you have a challenge that there's too much information. You need to go through a pile of information. You search any random word on the Google, and Google will give you millions of pages. It means there's still struggle for that, to find the right information. So I have doubts about that. That if easy information access is there, there may be a challenging argument for that. So, but one thing is for sure, that the use of digital media and the use of social media is reducing the academic ability of the students. Academic ability is different than academic score. As a professor,
Yes.
that it does not mean that if a student is academically able, and he may not be scoring a very good score, and some smart student, they're not very academically able, but they can get good academic scores. So I think we need to differentiate between the academic ability and academic score. So
Yes.
my concluding remarks is, use of social media may be linked with reduced academic ability, but it also may be linked with higher academic score, because, as you said, information access is relatively easily available on the social media. And I have put an alternate argument as well, that access to information is also still a problem, but in another way.
Yeah, very nicely said, Dr. Mohsin. And I liked your positivity that you mentioned everything in a very positive manner, and we should be taking all these things in a positive manner, which you mentioned earlier that now we have the more access and easily access and pile of the results when we just enter anything in Google. We have multiple sites for that, and again, it's a very good thing that we get a lot of information regarding that thing, but we need to filter that which information is right or wrong, or what are the benefits of that. So again, we should take it in the positive lens that yes, it has paved the way for us in a way that it previously it was very difficult to go to the libraries and go to the different places in order to get the information, but now we have on fingertips. We should get the advantage of that out of it. So very nicely said, Dr. Mohsin. Okay, we have one another question, which is now we are coming to the important aspect of this social media effect, that multiple studies have shown that unlimited use of social media causes the stress or bad moods and negative mental health. Many people wake up in the morning and immediately check their Instagram, Snapchat, or Twitter, and any negative comment on these could lead to bad mood for whole day. So, how to deal with that aspect of which you mentioned earlier in your overview of the topic, that once you get the 100 likes on any product, you will be obviously inclined towards that topic, that it is more better or it is more appreciated by the viewers. The same thing if you post any picture on the Facebook or any the Instagram or anything, and you don't get the much likes on that, so it may cause the negative effect on you. So how to deal with that, Dr. Mohsin?
Yeah, there is an ample evidence that when youth, especially the latest generation, when the youth wakes up, the first thing they do is take their mobile phone.
Yes.
What's on Twitter, what's on WhatsApp, what's on Instagram, what's on Facebook. That's the first thing they do, even before going to the washroom. That was also mentioned in the
Very
study. So
nicely said.
you know, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So how important is that? Important,
True.
probably in a negative way as well. So,
True.
what is the solution to that? Solution is, again, don't use it. If you are too stressed about that, it's that simple. But as we said, it's not that simple. So my recommendation is, uh, there are apps on the Android store and on the Apple store as well, which restrict your social media the usage of social media apps, right? You can restrict through that. For example, you can say that I will not use social media tools before 10 a.m. Like let's say you wake up at 8, you wake up at 7. So you have 2, 3 hours before actually really, starting your day. Another
True.
solution is, which I have personally found it very useful. Don't use social media on on the mobile. Use it on the computer. you know when you use social media apps on the mobile, that mobile is 24/7 available to you. You just pick up your phone and you're using social media. But when you're on the computer, when you're on the laptop, for example, you need to really prepare for that. You need to open the laptop, you need to charge it, you need to connect with the internet, then you need to browse through that, and then then so basically you are creating a barrier between the usage of social media and yourself. So uh, my second recommendation is that don't use social media apps on the mobile phone. Number three is restrict the usage, the amount of use of social media. There are apps as well. There is a default function in iPhone as well, which restrict. You can say that I don't want to use Instagram for more than 30 minutes, right, daily. You just put that information on the iPhone, and then iPhone, after 30 minutes, iPhone will tell you, you're using too much of Instagram, so I'm closing it down. So that'll be closed. So there are apps available which has which makes you more disciplined on the use of social media. I think that's the best solution. Otherwise, don't get stressed. Again,
Yeah.
don't compare your worst with the best. It's very important. Otherwise, you'll be stressed. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, wonderful answer for that, Dr. Mohsin. And in your overview, you have covered most of the question which I was
Yeah.
supposed to ask you. It was wonderful to see. Even one of the question was the comparison between what you see in the Facebook and what you have really in your real life.
Yeah.
There is a big difference to that, and you have already explained in your overview that yes, it may not be true, and sometimes you cannot compare your best version with someone else, the lowest one. So the same way, very nicely answered. We have another question regarding, you talk about the cell phone and etc. The question is, the social media causes addiction and affects the sleep. So using electronics like cell phones or video games before bedtime can lead to a variety of sleep problems. So you have already answered this question as well. But any other tip would you would recommend apart from that? You have mentioned that don't keep the social media notification and things in your cell phone. Apart from that, anything you would recommend particularly to the children regarding this sleep problems, because they
You
play the
know,
video
there is
games.
a
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
I got it. I got it. So basically, there is from evolutionary psychology perspective, it does not necessarily mean that you believe on that evolutionary psychology theory, but still there's a theory, That theory suggests that the humans have developed for hundreds of thousands of years in a specific cycle. And that specific cycle was directly linked with the sunlight, you know, because there were no alternate light. There was no reliable lighting system for the night. So what humans as a species are being used to do is when the sun rises, you wake up and all your activity are wrapped up by the sun goes down, So your active life was spent between the light from sunrise to sunset.
Sounds-
So after the sunset, you had, a 9, 10, depending on the region where you belong, you have a certain number of hours, which was exclusively allotted to the rest or to the sleep. So basically, what human psyche is developed is that if there is light, it means it's a working mode for the brain. If there is no light, it means there needs to be some rest, right? So when you're using the social on the when you're using mobile or the computer on the laptop, but you're basically messaging yourself is, it's the daylight, that's evolutionary psychology. It's built in the DNA. It's in the genes of the humans, right? Or I don't know how many years it will take to replace that button or something, whatever is that. So basically, when you're using the social media, any device, not just typically social media, when you're using any device which emanates light, you know,
Yes.
it is a message that it's a working mode, it's day. So you don't need to rest, that's the message. So basically, my recommendation in that sense is for the children, especially, uh, actually to the parents of the children, because they are the one which are basically controlling the devices. Uh, before 2 hours, actually, to be specific, 90 minutes. Before 90 minutes, there should be a gap of probably 90 minutes to 2 hours between the last use of the digital devices and sleep. Then it is likely to make you less vulnerable to sleep deprivation or sleep problems. So I would say that there should be a gap of probably 2 hours between the last time you use digital media and then you go to sleep. And the next natural question would be what to do in those 2 hours, right? How are we going to live through that 2 long hours? So I would suggest that you should have books, especially for the children. Then uh, the you are probably from my generation, so there was a personal association between the parents and the children. Parents used to recite stories. They used to
Yes.
recite lullabies, and there was a personal connection between the parents and the children. It's not anymore because parents are using their own digital media and the children are using their own digital media. They are probably connected on the Facebook. They're not really connected on in the real life. So I think that
I,
2 hours is very important. Those 2 hours can be utilized to make that personal connection between the children and the parents. So
yeah.
that's what I think could make a
Yeah.
difference.
Yes, very nicely said, Dr. Mohsin. I enjoy what you say, and I love it the way you are just concluding the different things and you are connecting the different dots. It's so wonderful to see. And what you have mentioned is the very much fact. And I received one WhatsApp in which I got the picture, the image was that everyone was on dining table, but everyone was busy with their cell phone. They were not talking with each other. Rather, they were talking to the
Yeah,
people who were far flung away. So that's the another perspective of social media as well, that it has made in a way that the people who are close to us has become very far from us, and we rarely talk to them. And
yeah,
yes, you have rightly mentioned that we had a special association with our parents because we used to hear different stories from them, and we used to talk a lot with them, and that's give us a lot of not only information, guidance and mentoring things, mentoring related stuff as well. That I learned so many things from my father in terms of stories. He used to
yeah,
narrate, yeah, and that was a wonderful time with them as well, because Because of that, all these activities, physical activities with the parents, involvement with them, have made us in a way that we have a strong bond. And most of the time, even we have received this one question which is related to that, that since me and my children do not have a lot of time to spend with each other, that's why our bond is quite weak. So what to do, because our children are addicted to the cell phone. So again, which you have covered in your previous question, that we have to be in that way in order to refrain from it. Okay, we have another very interesting question from our MPhil student. His name is Zahiruddin. He wants to ask the question that the role of social media is increasing in this pandemic situation. On the other hand, we noticed that the quality of information in the social media is also questionable. So, what is your suggestion for the student in this regard, please?
As we discussed earlier, that social media is designed, you know, if that's the right word, social media is designed in a way which is more likely to make you more biased. Normally, that biasness comes from the lack of proper decision making, right? You don't really know that if the information which is being provided to you is real or not. You cannot differentiate between the fake content and the real content. So my suggestion is, uh, there is an inherent problem with social media. Let me give you one point for that. There is an inherent problem is that social media content, especially social media content, is designed to excite you, right? If the content is not exciting, you are not going to pay attention to that. So it means the primary factor which is used in the content is how exciting is that. And which type of content is exciting. The content which is scandalous is exciting. The type, the content which has some sensation to that is exciting. And as a youth is more prone to that sensational content. The hormonal activities in that age. You know what I mean. So
True.
basically, students should be more focused. Actually, they should be really vigilant, I would say, that what type of content is being recommended to them, and they should be able to differentiate between the fake content and the real content. If
Yes.
they cannot differentiate between the fake content and the real content, I would suggest, if they have not that capability, sometimes it's quite possible, in that case, they should probably discard every information as unreliable. If you rely on some information which is not real, or which is not at the real level, sometimes, let me give you a trick. There is a trick on the social media, that there is a, let's say, 20% reality to a content, 20% reality. But that 20% reality is converted into 100% sensational content. What human mind is more prone to accept that 20%. All right, fine, it makes sense, that 20% looks real. Based on
Yes.
that 20% reality, you accept that 100% content, which has 80% fake content to that. So students should be vigilant, that what is the percentage of the content, what is the percentage of the real content in that exciting content. If they can, uh, if they can differentiate that, it's pretty good. If they
Yes.
cannot, it's pretty, I would suggest they should simply discard that and don't share it with your friend and in your social circle. So
Yeah.
that's my take on that.
Yeah, very nicely said. And Dr. Mohsin, you have already covered the second question of same Zahiruddin, who asked about the real content and the fake one, and how can you differentiate between them. Very, very nicely said. We have another question from the MPhil student, that is says Zishan Heather. He wants to ask the question that can we say that using social media in interacting with other people and role models is useful for improving attitudes and behaviors of learning and excelling?
Uh, I think, personally, I think social media or the digital media, it can give you an exposure. Yes, of course, you can learn from that. You can learn several things with that. But you should also consider that social media is a single platform in all those platforms, right? The
Yes.
teachers are a platform, mentors are a platform for the learning, right? Teachers are the platform for learning. Your parents are a platform for learning. Your colleagues are a platform for learning. Your class fellows are your platform for learning. Your friends of mahalla in your neighborhood, they are basically a platform for learning. And social media as another addition to that platforms. So if you assume that one platform will replace all other platforms, it's not correct. It doesn't make sense that one platform can replace every other platform. That's one angle to that. Second angle is there are some faculties of the human brain which cannot be trained on the digital media. For example, how you detect emotions. You can only do that in real life. The digital devices, they're not really expansive enough that they can show the actual micro level emotions to other person. So I think for a proper learning, uh, students should use all platforms. It does not mean that they should not use social media. Definitely, they should use social media. Definitely, they should interact with the role models if they are available and if they can interact with you. Yeah, definitely, for sure. Why not? But relying on social media, considering that it will replace all other learning platforms, that's not correct. So I think that I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, very nicely said, Dr. Mohsin again. And I would repeat that I'm enjoying whatever you reply because it's a so real world examples you are quoting and you are connecting the different dots in a wonderful manner. I'm really fan of you, Dr. Mohsin. What are
Oh,
answers you? Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, we have one another question that is very much important in terms of impact on society as well. So we will definitely take your opinion on that. That what is your opinion regarding the people who engage in risky behavior in order to gain more likes and shares on social media, and how would you advise them to be in a way so that they could be safe as well because they do it just to be of being famous. So please enlighten them.
yeah, it said that social media is enabling a mini celebrity culture. You know, everyone wants to be a celebrity. You know,
True, true. Yes, it's
earlier
very.
there was a barrier. Earlier there was a barrier between a common citizen and a
Yeah,
celebrity. Before the digital media, there was a clear barrier, and that
yeah.
barrier was the medium. For example, you'll be a celebrity when you are on the radio. You'll be a celebrity when you are on the television, or you'll be a celebrity when you're probably on a famous magazine or newspaper or something. Not
Yes,
everyone had the access to that due to
yes,
several factors. So there was a boundary between who can be a celebrity and who cannot be a celebrity. And the 99.9% of the common citizen, they were not basically considered as celebrity because they did not have access to those medium. But
true.
now everyone can be a celebrity. Actually,
Mm,
everyone is a celebrity because celebrities have followers, celebrities has fans, and when
yes,
you are on the social media, you have followers and you have fans. If even if you have 20 fans, you are a micro, probably nano celebrity. Whatever scale you want to, provide that. So everyone is a celebrity. Now, the
true.
level of celebrity is different. Some celebrities have millions of followers. Some celebrities have hundreds of thousands of followers. Some celebrities have hundreds of followers, and some celebrities have, probably 10, 15 followers. So everyone is a celebrity.
Yes.
What is depressing about the celebrity phenomena is that, have you seen those pindi boys on the roads driving those bikes without silence?
Most of the time,
Yeah, most
particularly
of the
in
time.
the
Yeah,
events.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. If you travel on the Rawalpindi, you cannot miss that. Even in
Yes.
other parts of the world as well. Why
True.
do they do that?
Yeah.
Why do they need to remove the silencer of the motorbike and make noise on the road? What is that? It's a
Yes.
reflection that they need
Yeah.
attention. It's
True.
simply that, right? They need attention. So
Yes.
when you're expecting that you need to have 100 followers on the Facebook, you need to have, let's say, thousands of followers on the Facebook. What does it reflect? It reflects you need attention. And
True.
it's a psychological behavior. When you need social approval of others, you basically have reduced self-worth. it's a very serious phenomena, you know. If you
Yes.
are enough for yourself, why do you need the approval of society? You know,
True.
if you think you are confident, if you think you are talented, if you think you are, you know, you are good, if you think you are intelligent, if you think
Yeah.
you are, you know, successful, why do you need the
Yes.
social approval of the society to make you feel that? It means there
True.
is something wrong with you, not with society. So
Yeah.
my recommendation is, in that case, don't be a celebrity. There is no charm in that, because
Yeah.
that celebrity culture is not going to give you anything except stress, depression, anxiety, as you
Yes.
said. So if your friend, I'm talking to the people who raised that
Yeah.
question, if your friend is into that risky behavior, so
True.
basically it's not that risky behavior, it's basically a reflection of reduced self-worth, which is
True.
making them do that risky behavior because it will give them a kind of social approval in shapes of followers, in shapes of likes, which will probably increase their self-worth, which is not real. You know, that self-worth is not real. So I would
Yeah.
suggest that, that they should work on themselves, they should work on the learning, they should work on their, you know, or they should work on their skills. If you're talented, if you're intelligent, if you are successful in your specific area, you don't need social approval of other people. So I hope that that answers the question.
Wonderful, very nicely said. And Dr. Mohsin, in each of your answer, you covered two, three aspect and two, three of my questions. And because we got the another question which is very interesting, and you have already almost you have given the answer for that. They mention in the question that when you are in the social media, most of the time you having no time for self reflection. It means you have little time or no time for reflecting who you are, what you think, and why you act the way you want to do. So you need to think about that thing, that the things that allow you to grow as a person. So you have already covered that question by mentioning that you need to gauge yourself and you make yourself as worthy enough and try to understand what you are gifted and how can you use your intelligence in a better way to be a successful, and then you will be recognized by society automatically. You don't
Yeah,
need to be indulged in the risky behavior for that
you're right.
perspective.
You're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
Okay, Dr. Mohsen, we have another very interesting question. That is the one of the most important things you have already discussed, that we are being distracted most of the time by the social media. So one mother, the concerned mother, asked the question that being mother, I observe that my children are being distracted at home because of social media, and my friends and relatives recommended that it is fine in order to be updated with the world. So please suggest its pros and cons. I believe that she is concerned just because that if she doesn't allow her children, then the people would say that they are not updated, they are not up to the mark of these are the standards of the society. But at the same time, it has a negative effect that it consumes all of the time. So please suggest what to do in that situation.
You know, I'm not really sure what is the age of those children, but
Yeah.
uh, I will answer, generally. You know,
Yes,
Facebook
please.
has an age restriction of 13 years. If you are less than 13 years, you cannot create your account on the Facebook, right? So every
True.
social media platform has certain age limit. 13
True.
is probably a good uh, is a good threshold to understand that the children below the age of 13, they should not be using the social media, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And there
True.
are there are there are there are a lot of reasons to that. I can discuss that, but there's no time for that. The point
True.
is, if they are less than 13 years age, they should not have access to the social media. One. Second,
Mm.
you know, uh, that mother should ask herself whether who is the one who got them addicted to that device. You know,
Yes.
that
True.
device was basically in control of the parents. How is that
Mm.
possible? You know, a child can never have access to that poisonous material which you have stored in your house for probably
True.
pest for the pest, or probably, you know, as a pesticide somewhere. your children cannot have access to that pesticide because that's harmful for them. But
True.
now you have got them addicted to that device. It's the responsibility of the parents, of course. Second element is that if they are addicted, there must be a reason for the addiction. The
Yes.
reason for addiction is, as a child, it's your brain. It will never rest. Child, a human brain, it never rests. That's the beauty of it. Even when you're sleeping, the brain is more active than you are awake technically. you know so brain is never gets asleep, it never gets rest. So as a child, you don't know how to channel your energy. As an adult, you can understand that your brain is active, you need something, so you can channelize your activity somewhere. You don't get bored that easily as children do. But because children do not have diverse platforms to channelize their energy, they will channelize their energy to the device which is given to them by their parents as Jan Chudao program. So they started with this Jan Chudao, and now they are addicted to that. So basically, so what is the solution? That was basically the dynamics. What is the solution? Solution is, you need to give the children something which is a replacement of that device. If you don't give something which is a replacement to that device, you are not going to end that addiction. And what is
Yes.
that replacement of that device? That is basically the affection of the parents. That is the attention of the parents. They need
Yeah.
to play with each other. Otherwise, there is no simple solution to that.
Yeah.
So you need to close that Jan Chudao project if you want your children to, get free from that addiction. That's my take
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, very nicely said, Dr. Mohsin. I'm enjoying your conversation with you, the different tips, suggestion that you are recommending to the different audience, because we are live and around the world. People are watching it. Not only the students, the parents, and everyone is watching us, and they are enjoying because I could see the comment section. It's a lovely session. It is a wonderful session with you, Dr. Mohsin. Since we have already exceeded our time, and I know you are very busy and you are quite generous in giving your time, we are highly thankful to you for that. Dr. Mohsin, could you please tell us about your Neuron Solutions, because you have the entrepreneurship skills and you are entrepreneur by yourself as well. Please tell us about your this organization, and you have, as mentioned in the Neuron Solutions, that it focus on the three main areas, that is data, research, and development. And
Yeah.
these solutions are backed by the team that possess the PhD qualifications and decades of experience in the industry as well. And I could see the your client testimonial that they are very happy, and you have variety of the clients as well. So please tell us about your this organization so that people could take help of your expertise, since you are a contributing member to the world, to the society, and to the community, and we want to have your positive impact on the society. Please let us know how can people take advantage of your expertise in order to overcome their problems.
Actually, from Neuron Solutions perspective, we are focusing on three areas, just like you mentioned: data, research, and development. So basically, we're into market research, uh, specifically related with the marketing and the product launching of that, from entrepreneurial perspective. Second set of services which we offer is digital marketing, because my PhD is in digital marketing, so uh, uh, I can assure you that we can provide that service quite good enough, right? And the third is basically the solution development. Uh, we have an in-house software house. We developed our apps. We developed our own solutions for the clients and for ourselves as well. So these are main three areas. What I can
Yeah.
offer to the entrepreneurs, for the budding uh, entrepreneurs, probably which are graduating from the universities, is that in my observation, and the research has shown that, especially in Pakistan, people start business and they are not successful in that. And it does not mean that's the fault of the entrepreneur. Most of the time, that's the fault of the business model. They do not have the understanding of the feasibility. They do not have the understanding of the business dynamics. What I can offer them is, when they start business, I can give them free advice that this is the business with they intend to start. I can just give them in one sentence that whether it would work or not. You know, uh, I cannot give you enough observation that there is a shop somewhere in the market. It is started, and I just see that, and you can tell that this shop is not going to work here because in that locality, in that region, this business is not viable. It's that one sentence. If you could tell that to the entrepreneur, to the owner, that this shop is not going to work here, hundreds of thousands of rupees will be saved. So this is something which I can offer you, that if you have some entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs, if they have some business ideas, if they can simply share their business idea, I can tell them it's workable or not. It's that simple. I think that's
Yeah.
the best which I can offer in a
Yeah,
short time.
that's wonderful. Yeah, that's very wonderful. And we would recommend to our viewers that please consult with Dr. Mohsin. We will provide you his email address and how can you keep in touch with him in order to get his expertise on that particular things. It is evident from this session that how much grip he has on this field. More importantly, he's a PhD in that field. So obviously he has a good command and good insight on this field. So take advantage of such experts we have in Pakistan. These are our assets. They are the gem of this profession. We should take advantage of his expertise in that field. So we highly recommend the Dr. Mohsin Zaid for you people that please take advantage of him in order to be a beneficial to the society, because the new entrepreneur will definitely be offering new employment, and that would be good for the society in a larger perspective. Okay, Dr. Mohsen, we will take your final message to the world as a researcher, trainer, teacher, and the entrepreneur. What's your message to the world, please?
I think single sentence message is that social media is part of life. Social media is not life, right? If you take it
Oh,
as a part of life,
yes.
it is workable. If you take it as a life, it's not basically workable.
Oh, what a message you have given to the world. It is just ocean in a one sentence by itself. That it is not the real world. It is not the complete world. It is just part of the life, and you should take it as a part of life. And you can use it for your advantage, for your growth, and for multi-purpose that is healthier for the society and for yourself as well. So once again, thank you very much, Dr. Mohsin Zahid, for your time, for your valuable suggestion for our all students, researchers, and professionals. It was a wonderful session with you. I learned a lot from you, Dr. Mohsin Zahid, in this 1 hour. I can openly say that I'm now your fan. The way you portray, the way you architect everything, and the way you portray to the students and all the viewers, it was so wonderful. And now I could imagine how good teacher you would be at that university level. And I wish I could be your student so that I had plenty of time of learning from you. Such a vast experience, such a vast knowledge and grip on this profession. Thank you very much once again for joining us. And that's all for the this session, viewers. Thank you very much for joining us. And inshallah, we will be taking more experts as well. And we will request the Dr. Zahid Mohsin Zahid for taking out your time for our next session as well. We will be highly thankful for the next session because we could see a lot of requests for the next session with you as well. So that's all
Sure.
for this session. Yeah, inshallah, we will be taking you. And thank you very much for this watching this session. And inshallah, we'll be coming up again with the Dr. Mohsin in future as well. Thank you so much. Stay